Today I want to talk about Georgia and its linebacker situation and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about Georgia and its linebacker situation because one of the things that fascinates me about Georgia is we never actually take a look at Kirby Smarts' defense and try to pick it apart because we always understand that it's a Kirby Smart defense. And a lot of that is baked in from his years at Alabama, where he was able to put out these outstanding defenses that no matter who they face, were generally going to be in every single contest. And then that seemed to travel with him to Georgia, flipping that program into the one that can compete for college football playoff spots and make it to a national championship game in a very short amount of time. It's one of those things that I really like to flesh out for most people. Kirby Smart got to a national title game before Lincoln Riley did, right? Ryan Day just got to a national title game, get there just a little bit faster than Kirby Smart, but it's not the kind of thing that is regular, right? Gus Malzahn still hasn't done it as a head coach. You look around at Ed Orgeron and LSU, they were able to get there, right? That's where you have to be. You have to be able to recruit with the Ed Orgeron LSUs of the world, as well as coach defenses for the most part, like you did at Alabama if you are Kirby Smart. What's fascinating about 2019 LSU is that defense was middling, right? Average. It was the offense that carried them, and Georgia has not had an offense that can carry them ever. Perhaps this year will be the first time that we're able to say that, with JT Daniels having this bevy of running backs that is led by Zeus White, Kendall Milton, Kenny McIntosh, and on it goes, along with wide receivers. My goodness. Kearis Jackson, George Pickens, and Dominique Blaylock coming back, just to name a couple there. But the defense, particularly with Jalen Carter up front, is fascinating to me because they lose four linebackers that we all expected them to be really good. Monty Rice being one of those, Nate McBride being another. Jermaine Johnson transfers to Florida State. And of course, Azeez Ojulari is one of the top edge guys in this year's NFL draft. So they're going to have to find ways to replace that production and replace that talent. And I think they have two that could do that right away. And 5 stars, Xavian Sorey and Smael Mondon. Now, one of those guys projects as inside linebacker, one of those guys projects as outside linebacker, and one of those guys is also battling a foot injury. In spring football practice, I think we make too much of it to begin with, right? It was the thing that we look forward to most because there was no real football being played. But now with the XFL basically taking an off year, coming back next year with The Rock at the front, and then FCS playing football this spring, we're not as enthusiastic about spring football, though I think we're going to pay attention to what goes on there because we really like to project forward. We like to take a look at what the roster says, and then we like to try to say what that roster is going to look like in September. Not even really having a conversation about September is not what the roster looks like in November when it's actually time to try to go and win some football games and make it to national title games if you're going to do that, if you're going to push for conference championships. But Xavian Sorey and Smael Mondon, I think, are going to factor in to just how good Georgia is through the middle. And because they love to run 4 linebackers whenever possible, right, whenever possible, I expect those guys to factor in. And knowing that Dan Lanning was a guy that was being asked to make a move there and then sticking, you got to wonder if Kirby looks at him and goes, hey, you and Glenn Schumann need to work this out, as opposed to Kirby just doing all the working out. However, when you take a look at Xavian Sorey, you take a look at Smael Mondon, I don't know that you're going to find 2 better 5-star prospects defensively in the last couple of years because athletically, they're just out there, right? And then you get Keely Ringo back from injury, and I'll be really interested to see where he projects, especially with Richard LeCount and Eric Stokes going where they have gone. So paying attention to how they develop, but also what they do in spring practice is probably going to be one of those storylines that I pay attention to the most. I know that we're all going to pay attention to quarterbacks and some quarterback battles that are going on, particularly at Oregon, Ohio State, Texas A&M, to name a few, to say nothing of LSU. I think is not really as competitive as we once thought because Miles Brennan stacked up next to TJ Finley and Max Johnson seems to be the lead guy there. But watching how that defense develops, because I have projected Georgia to make it to the national title game facing Oklahoma, right? Whether or not that works out, we'll see, right? Because when we do these things, I do them because people ask me to, and I take a lot of pride in it. So when it hits, I'm the guy that's going to tell you, like 5 losses for LSU or Alabama picked to win the national championship last year, and then people poo-pooing my pick of Oklahoma because that's my team. But you understand, I genuinely believe that Georgia and Oklahoma have the rosters to be 2 of the best teams in the country this year. But a lot of that is dependent on Xavian, Sorey, and Smael Mondon stepping up in a big way to do what I expect them to do, and Todd Monken being able to cook, right? Because if he can teach JT Daniels to read the field and they allow JT Daniels to throw the ball 30 to 40 times a game, I think they have an opportunity to not just come out of the SEC East and win the SEC title game, but also to walk into the college football playoff undefeated. What is going to be interesting as we get closer to that is if there is an SEC East team that can face them and give them a run for their money, and then what's going on outside of the SEC. Clemson, I expect to come out of the ACC once again, and we'll see who happens to come out of the Pac-12. What's going to be interesting about the Pac-12 is can Oregon, Utah, USC, Washington, Arizona State, the like, end up running the table undefeated, because I think that's the only way we're going to see a Pac-12 team get into the college football playoff. Same thing with the Big 12 team. They're going to, I think, have to run the table to be undefeated, but Oklahoma has proven that you don't actually have to do that. You can actually take L's to Iowa State and still get into that thing. Yeah, just taking a look around at how Oklahoma gets put in, you would think that the Pac-12 might get the benefit of the doubt if they take a loss to a good team. So, like, if Oregon loses to Ohio State, would that preclude them from getting into the college football playoff? I don't think so. But right now, I want to take a look at that depth chart. I want to see how that depth chart continues to go at Georgia, and I want to see what the defense actually looks like when they go play Clemson to start the season, because that's going to be a really interesting ball game. But watch for Xavian, Sorey. Watch for Smael Mondon. I understand that if you're a dyed-in-the-wool Georgia fan, you already know that these are 2 of your better prospects and 2 of the top players in the 2021 class. But sometimes we got to just walk it out for some other folks so they know that we're all on the same footing. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.